when he at first, got to the league, you know, you had to think about, all the other, point guards that he was facing in the West, and one of the guys who he had admired and also was combative with them too was John Stockton, who at the time was was his nemesis in the Western Conference. But he started off pretty slow, but then eventually he became a force to be reckoned with. I want to say his breakout season was the 93, 94 season, because that year, um, that's when he started averaging. Um, he started averaging more in points. Now in assists, he actually averaged more in assists his first couple of years because he was at 6.4 and 6.2, but he actually went down on assists and went up in scoring at 16.5 because his first couple of years he wasn't really scoring that much. But one thing that always stood out was his defense because his first year he was averaging 2 points, two steals, and he just continuously got better with the steals. I mean, that's why they called him the glove because he would hound you. And see, this is another thing that I have to mention too. With GP, yes, they had the flair. He had good court vision. He could find you. He could, they were throwing uh, alley oops from from full court. From all the way to the to the other end of the court and catching them easy and stuff. Even before D Wade to LeBron and all this other stuff you see. And like he said in the video, he said they were the the lobs city before the lob city. The ones with great with Blake Griffin and CP3 and that team. But I'm kind of getting away from the point a little bit. But basically, you know, even though he could you know run the show and everything, he could still lock you down. And like I said, I love defense. I'm a defensive minded and defensive first uh, type of individual when it comes, especially when it comes, to this sport right here. Listen, you have Patrick Beverly. Yes, I understand that. Okay, but GP can also score. He can also back. He could take you down in the post. Not low post, but just enough to where he could get you around the basket and hit the little turnaround jumper. And he could score in a variety of ways, and he could also, play, float to the basket too. Get in the layup and occasional dunks or whatnot. Um, because people forget that Gary Payton was 6'4", which is, you know, that's a decent size forward guard. Because you got to remember he was guarding Jordan, and Jordan was 6'6". But I mean, he almost averaged 3 steals 1 year. And that was crazy to go along with 7.5 assists. But either way, his numbers, they tell somewhat of the story. But that's another thing. You can't always rely on numbers to tell the story. I'm not an analytical type of individual. I like the eye test. And if you really watch Gary Payton at his peak, especially at his peak. Before he started going to like Milwaukee and you know Boston and Miami and all that. One on one defensively, he was a nightmare. You know, and he played in that era where you know you were going to get locked up by the guards, regardless. They weren't going to just let you just roll on by to the rim, and it was none of that. Especially when they had you know, the hand checking. But Gary Payton was phenomenal. He became a Hall of like I said, he's in the Hall of Fame, 9-time All Star. He does have a ring. Um, 9-time All Defensive. He was a 95, 96 steals champ. Um, and he also won the 95, 96 Defensive Player of the Year. You know, um, those two had great years together. You know, those two had great years together, but unfortunately, it did come to an end. You hate to see that a duo like that was so talented it come to an end, especially when they they gave the Bulls a good run for their money. You know, that was a great series, and even Shawn Kemp has stated that Michael Jordan had stated that that was the his most important finals right there because the Sonics weren't an easy task, and they didn't just have Gary Payton and Shawn Kemp. They had a whole crew that could get it done. You know they were a good squad. And George Karl, you know, who in my eyes he was a decent coach, but you know he he never really got the credit that he deserved. Because a lot of people felt like he underachieved. I mean, he made it to the finals and everything, but after that, that was pretty much it. You know, but overall, I would have loved to see Gary Payton and Shawn Kemp at least stay, together a few more years. I would have loved to see them win a championship because, you know, just such a tremendous talent. To me, they kind of reminded me of in those days you had the big and you had the guard. It's kind of similar. You had a big man and you had a guard. You have um, you had Wilton, you had Jerry West, and then you had or Elgin Baylor. No, no, not Elgin Baylor. No, it's just Wilton, Jerry West. Then you had Kareem. And then you had he was with Oscar and he was with Magic. Then you had Shaq. Then you had Penny. Then you had Shaq and you had Kobe. You know, Gary Payton and Shawn Kemp. Even though Shawn Kemp, wasn't he was 6'10", 6'11", he still played the power forward. But he was still big and could still run the floor, and they were still a good duo.